The forest goes quiet. Birds stop. Wind drops. Something shifted in the tree line 50 meters out. Everyone keeps walking. You stopped 3 steps ago. That pause, that instinct to stop, process, and read before moving. That's not social anxiety. That's not shyness dressed up in scientific language. That is a finely tuned biological detection system that kept your bloodline breathing through conditions that would end most people in 72 hours. Society spent the last 100 years telling you that you're broken, that you need to speak up more, network harder, be louder in meetings, stop overthinking, just relax at the party. Evolution spent 300,000 years making sure your brain worked exactly the way it does. One of those two things ran a longer experiment. Let's talk about what you actually are. The introvert brain. What's actually different? First, let's kill the biggest myth right now. Introversion isn't shyness. It isn't social fear. It isn't hating people. Introverts can be loud, funny, charismatic, and genuinely enjoy being around others. The difference is what happens after. Your brain runs on a different chemical highway than extroverts. Extroverts are dopamine dominant. Dopamine is the reward chemical. External stimulation, noise, crowds, new faces, fast conversation. It hits their dopamine system and feels like fuel. Your brain is acetylcholine dominant. Acetylcholine is the focus chemical. It activates during deep thinking, careful analysis, sustained concentration. It's what fires when you're solving something complex, reading something dense, or sitting with a hard problem long enough to actually crack it. External noise doesn't fuel you. It competes with a system that was already running. That's not a defect. That's specialization. And specialization, when matched to the right environment, is the most powerful thing evolution produces, the detection system. Go back 50,000 years. Savanna, dry season. Your group is moving between water sources. Extroverts are doing what extroverts do. Talking, bonding, coordinating, maintaining the social fabric that holds the group together. Critical work. Real work. You're doing something different. You're reading everything. The angle of the grass where something heavy walked through it 2 hours ago. The way a bird launched from the acacia at a specific trajectory, not fleeing upward, fleeing sideways, which means ground-level threat. The smell that's slightly wrong. The rock formation ahead that creates a blind approach on the left side. If you're enjoying this deep dive into the story, hit the subscribe button and let us know in the comments from where in the world you are watching from today. Nobody told you to look for this. You can't turn it off. Your brain processes sensory input at a measurably deeper level than extroverted brains. Research at Duke University demonstrated that introverts show more blood flow to regions handling internal processing, planning, and sensory integration. The details that extroverts filter as background noise, your brain logs as data. In a group moving through genuinely dangerous terrain, this isn't a personality quirk. This is the early warning system the entire group depends on without knowing it. You're the reason they make it to the water source. You're the reason they're alive to socialize tomorrow. The thinking before acting advantage. Here's something extroverts will never tell you, mostly because they didn't pause long enough to notice it. Impulsive groups make faster decisions. They also make catastrophically wrong ones more often. Your brain has a longer processing loop between stimulus and response. Something happens, most people react. You route the information through a longer internal sequence. What does this mean? What are the implications? What am I missing? What happens 3 steps from now if we choose this? This isn't overthinking. This is prefrontal cortex depth work. The part of your brain responsible for consequence modeling running at full capacity before your mouth opens. Research consistently shows introverts make fewer decision-making errors under complex conditions, not because they're smarter, because they're slower to commit in exactly the situations where premature commitment gets people killed. Your ancestor is standing at a river crossing. Everyone wants to go now. You're staring upstream. You notice the water is brown, not clear. You notice the current sounds different than yesterday. You notice the animals on the opposite bank aren't drinking. You say, wait, everyone thinks you're being difficult. Then the flash flood comes. That hesitation, the one people roll their eyes at in meetings, that's the mechanism that has saved more lives than any sword ever made. The observation advantage in social environments. Your processing depth doesn't shut off around people, it redirects. Extroverts in social settings are broadcasting, filling space, generating connection through output. You're doing something quieter and significantly more powerful. You're reading the room at a level most people can't access. The micro-expression that crossed someone's face before they agreed. The slight tonal shift that signals the negotiation actually ended 3 sentences ago. The group dynamic that subtly reorganized itself in the last 20 minutes. The person in the corner who just became a problem. You caught all of it. Social environments aren't draining for introverts because they're uncomfortable. They're draining because your sensory system is running at full load the entire time. You're processing at maximum capacity without a break. When you leave and feel completely emptied out, that's not weakness. That's a high-performance system powering down after sustained operation. Imagine running full diagnostics on every person in the room continuously for 3 hours. Then someone asks why you're tired. That's the question they're actually asking you. In ancestral environments, that constant social reading wasn't optional luxury intelligence, it was survival data. Knowing who in the group was losing loyalty to the leader. Knowing whose alliance was shifting. Knowing who was about to make a move that would destabilize everything. You were the social intelligence layer the group didn't know it needed. Low deep work advantage. Agriculture, tools, medicine, shelter engineering, fire optimization. Every cognitive advancement that moved humanity from surviving day to day to building actual civilization required one thing extroversion fundamentally resists: sustained, solitary, uninterrupted focus. Your brain doesn't just tolerate this, it runs best here. When the environment quiets and the social demands pause, something switches on. Your acetylcholine system gets full access. You go deep. Problems that feel impossible in fragmented, noisy conditions become solvable. Connections between ideas emerge that require patience most brains won't sustain long enough to reach. The tool that's slightly better, the method that's slightly more efficient, the observation that seeds an entirely new approach. If you find this story engaging, please take a moment to subscribe and enable notifications. It helps us continue producing in-depth content like this. These didn't come from the loudest person around the fire. They came from the person sitting slightly away from it, watching the flame, thinking about something nobody else thought to think about yet. Caltech ran studies showing introverts demonstrate consistently higher performance on complex problem-solving tasks requiring sustained focus. The advantage isn't raw IQ, it's the ability to stay in the problem long enough to reach the answer. Civilizations don't just survive on social cohesion, they advance on solitary insight. You're the reason they advanced. The listening advantage. Quick test. When you're talking to someone, how often are you actually hearing them versus building your next sentence? Extroverts, on average, are generating response faster. This is useful. It keeps conversation flowing. It maintains social momentum. It also means they miss things. Your longer processing loop, the one everyone calls overthinking, means you're actually receiving what's said to you. The specific words chosen. The hesitation before a particular phrase, the detail that contradicted something said 10 minutes earlier. Leaders who listen outperform leaders who talk. Studies on decision-making in high-stakes environments consistently show that the best outcomes correlate with the leader who gathered the most accurate information before acting, not the one who acted fastest. In a hunter-gatherer band, the person who actually heard the scout's full report without interrupting, who noticed the detail at the end that changed everything, who asked the one question that revealed the real situation, that person was worth 10 confident decision-makers shooting in the dark. Your listening isn't passive, it's intelligence collection. Loyalty and depth advantage. Wide networks are efficient, deep relationships are resilient. Extroverts build broad social webs, many connections, rapid trust formation, large coalitions, essential for group expansion and resource negotiation across tribes. Your social architecture works differently. Fewer connections, much deeper ones. In small ancestral bands where you lived and died with the same 30 to 50 people across your entire life, the quality of those relationships mattered more than the quantity. The person who knew you completely, who would run toward the danger for you specifically, who you'd wake up at 3 a.m. to warn without a second thought, that's the alliance that saves you when things actually collapse. Research on social networks in crisis situations shows that deep relational bonds outperform broad networks in actual survival scenarios. When genuine threat arrives and fair-weather connections dissolve, the deep ones hold. You don't have many of those relationships, but the ones you have are built on something most social networks never reach. That's not a weakness in human connection. That's the highest form of it, what it all means. Society built its institutions around extroversion, open offices, networking events, speak up or you don't exist, loudness as competence, speed as intelligence, visibility as value, and then told every introvert that the problem was theirs to fix. Here's what 300,000 years of evolutionary pressure actually produced: a detection system that catches threats before they register to others, a processing depth that prevents catastrophic impulsive error, A social intelligence layer that reads rooms other people only broadcast into. A focused cognition that generates the insights that move groups forward. A listening precision that gathers real information while everyone else performs confidence. A relational depth that creates the bonds that hold when everything else breaks. Every single one of those functions was tested across hundreds of thousands of years of real conditions. Ice ages, famines, predators, internal conflict, shifting environments, collapsing social structures. The traits that didn't serve the group got removed. The ones that did kept getting passed down. Your introversion got passed down. The drain you feel in loud rooms, that's a precision system running at maximum load. The depth you go to when you're finally alone, that's the most powerful cognitive state human evolution ever produced. The relationships you build slowly and protect fiercely, that's the social bond that actually lasts. You weren't built for the open office. You were built for the moment the birds go quiet. And when that moment comes, you're the only one who notices. That's not a small thing. Own it. Thank you for watching. For more detailed historical breakdowns, check out the other videos on your screen now, and don't forget to subscribe.